Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are taking a really massive stack of sources. We've got theological commentaries, linguistic breakdowns, historical context, and we are aiming all of that at one specific chapter of ancient literature.
Yeah.
We are looking at Isaiah chapter 26 in the King James Version.
It is such a fascinating text to dig into. It's often referred to by scholars as the Song of Judah, or sometimes the Song of the Strong City.
Right. And what struck me immediately in the reading was just the context of it all.
Yeah.
Because you have this beautiful, almost lullaby-like song about peace and safety, but it's sitting right in the middle of what commentators call the little apocalypse.
Right. Which is chapters 24 through 27 of Isaiah. And I should warn you, if you haven't read it, it's not a light read.
No, it is honestly terrifying. Because chapter 24 describes the earth staggering like a drunkard, the moon being confounded, the sun ashamed. I mean, it is total cosmic upheaval.
Global judgment.
Exactly. And then, dead center in that storm, you get chapter 26. It feels like the eye of a hurricane.
That is the perfect analogy, because the mission of this deep dive today is to understand the physics of that eye. Like, how do you have a song of victory when the entire world is literally falling apart?
Right.
So we're going to dissect this verse by verse. We'll look at the strong city versus the lofty city and really try to understand the mechanics of this quote-unquote perfect peace that is promised.
And we absolutely have to talk about the resurrection. Because I was really surprised to see how explicit it is here in the Old Testament.
Oh, it is one of the clearest Old Testament predictions of bodily resurrection. We will definitely get there. But I think we have to start with the setting.
Let's jump right in.
Right.
So verse 1, "In that day shall this song be sung in the land of Judah." Now, in that day, I feel like I see that phrase constantly when I'm reading prophetic books.
You do.
Is it just a transition, like once upon a time?
No, it's actually much more technical than that. In that day is prophetic shorthand. It almost always flags the eschaton.
The end time.
Right, the day of the Lord. It's Isaiah looking past the immediate historical context to the ultimate fulfillment of history.
So while Isaiah might be writing to people who are currently worried about Assyria or Babylon breathing down their necks, he's actually looking through a telescope at the end of the age.
Exactly. He is seeing the messianic kingdom, the millennial reign. The dust has completely settled on the judgment of the nations, and a song breaks out in Judah.
Wow.
And the lyrics of this song, they start with this wild declaration of architecture. It says, "We have a strong city. Salvation will God appoint for walls and bulwarks."
Okay, let's unpack the architecture here.
Yeah.
Because in the ancient world, and honestly, even today, if you think about it, a strong city is defined by its hardware.
Yes.
So you're talking thick walls, high towers, missile defense systems.
Right. If you have walls, you sleep at night.
Yeah.
If you don't, you are completely vulnerable to wolves and armies and whatever else is out there. But Isaiah is flipping the script here. He says, we have a strong city, but look at the materials. The walls aren't granite. The walls are Yeshua.
Salvation.
Salvation. Salvation will God appoint for walls. It is a metaphor that changes the entire source of security.
Because it means the defense of this city isn't something that humanity built.
Yeah.
It's not a massive military budget or some strategic geopolitical alliance.
Yeah, exactly.
The security is the saving character of God himself.
It's spiritual security manifesting as physical safety.
Which is, I mean, that's a hard shift for us to make mentally, isn't it? Because we are wired to trust what we can touch.
Of course.
We want a physical wall we can lean against.
And Isaiah is saying, no, the only wall that won't fall down when the earth shakes is God's intent to save you.
That's powerful. So if the walls are salvation, who actually gets to live there? Because verse 2 says, "Open ye the gates, that the righteous nation which keepeth the truth may enter in."
This is the citizenship test. Usually you get into a city because, well, you were born there, or you have a visa, or you have enough money to buy property.
Sure.
Here, the passport is character.
The righteous nation which keepeth the truth.
Yeah, and that word truth in Hebrew is eminim. It's actually related to the word amen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it implies firmness, steadiness, fidelity. It's not just intellectual assent, like, oh, I know the facts of the universe.
Right.
It's covenant loyalty. It refers to the people who stayed faithful when that little apocalypse was raging outside.
You know, it reminds me of the New Jerusalem in Revelation.
It's the exact same typology. Revelation 21 tells us the gates of that city are never shut, but nothing that defiles can enter.
Because you have to be aligned with the reality of the city to withstand the atmosphere inside it.
Exactly. If you aren't keeping the truth, you simply don't belong in a city made of salvation. The environment would reject you.
Okay, so we are inside the dates.
Yeah.
Now we come to verse 3. And this is probably one of the most famous verses in the entire Bible.
Oh, absolutely.
That will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee.
It's a vice that has anchored millions of people throughout history. But the English translation, beautiful as it is, really misses the texture of the original Hebrew.
What are we missing?
Well, take the phrase perfect peace. In Hebrew, it's shalom, shalom.
Peace.
Right. Because Hebrew doesn't have bold font. It doesn't have italics to emphasize something. To show the ultimate version of a word, you just repeat it. It's the superlative.
Oh, that makes sense.
So it's not just a lack of noise or a temporary ceasefire. Shalom means wholeness, completeness. It's complex systems working in perfect harmony.
So shalom is like
Absolute, unmitigated, comprehensive well-being. A peace with absolutely no cracks in it.
that sounds incredible, but honestly, it sounds impossible. I mean, modern life is basically designed to crack our peace. My phone alone destroys my shalom about every 12 minutes.
Which is exactly why the condition in the second half of the verse is so vital. We have to look at the mechanics of this piece. It says, whose mind is stayed on thee.
Stayed. That's a curious word in English. It almost sounds passive, like stay, dog. Stay.
It does, but it's actually a very active word. The Hebrew word is samuk. It acts like a participle. It means to lean upon, to be propped up by, or to rest your full weight on something.
Okay.
Think of a heavy building stayed by a massive stone pillar, or a person with a broken leg leaning their full physical weight on a crutch.
So it's really about weight transfer.
That is the physics of it. Think about anxiety. What is anxiety, really? It's the sensation of carrying a weight you are not designed to carry.
The weight of the future. The weight of all those outcomes you can't control.
Trying to hold up the sky.
Being Atlas, yeah.
Right. So a stayed mind is a mind that has consciously decided to transfer that weight onto a structure capable of holding it.
So it's not just mindfulness then. It's not just emptying your mind and focusing on your breathing.
No, it's the complete opposite. Mindfulness is often about looking inward to find calm. This is about looking outward and leaning actively on something else.
Because if you lean your full weight on a spider web, you're going to fall. Not because you didn't lean well or didn't lean sincerely.
But because the object couldn't take the weight. Exactly.
And verse 4 immediately identifies the object we are supposed to lean on. Trust ye in the Lord forever. For in the Lord Jehovah is everlasting strength.
Everlasting strength. The Hebrew phrase there is Sur Olamim,
Which translates to what?
Rock of Ages.
Ah, like the famous hymn.
This is exactly where Augustus Toplady got it from. God is the Zur, the rock. In a world that Isaiah has just described in the previous chapters as reeling and shaking and falling apart, God is the immutable one.
He is the unmoving point.
Yes. If your mind is stayed, if it's Samuk on the Rock of Ages, you have stability, not because you are incredibly strong, but because the rock is incredibly dense.
That is a huge distinction for anyone listening to this. The peace comes from the structural integrity of what you trust, not the intensity of your trusting.
You're right. You can trust a broken chair with all your heart, with absolute sincerity, and you will still hit the floor.
Wow. So we have the strong city built on the rock. But every good story needs a villain. And Isaiah introduces the antagonist right here in verses 5 and 6, the lofty city.
Yes, the tale of two cities. And this is a theme that runs from Genesis with the Tower of Babel all the way to Revelation with Mystery Babylon.
The two kingdoms.
Right. Isaiah says, "For he bringeth down them that dwell on high, the lofty city, he layeth it low."
So if the strong city represents reliance on God, what is the lofty city?
Historically, in Isaiah's time, he's looking at Babylon. But typologically, across all the sources we examine, the lofty city represents the world system.
The city of man.
Exactly. It represents human autonomy, human pride, its technological arrogance, economic dominance. It's the collective shout of humanity saying, we can do this ourselves.
We don't need God. We have our own walls.
Right. It's the city of, I am the master of my fate.
And verse 5 says God brings it down to the dust. It's total, utter demolition. But look at the irony in verse 6. This is an incredible social reversal.
It is.
The foot shall tread it down, even the feet of the poor and the steps of the needy.
That is a massive reversal, because usually the lofty city grinds the poor into the dust.
That's the history of the world, plain and simple. The strong trample the weak.
Always. But in God's economy, when the final judgment comes, the entire pyramid is flipped upside down. The meek shall inherit the earth.
The very people who were marginalized and oppressed by that lofty city are the ones walking victoriously over its ruins.
It is ultimate vindication. The system that crushed them is now quite literally the pavement they walk on.
Now, as we move into section 2 of our outline, which covers verses 7 through 11, the song shifts. It moves from the grand cities to the individual believer. Verse 7 says, "The way of the just is uprightness. Thou, most upright, dost weigh the path of the just."
Weigh, there's a really interesting verb in the Hebrew. It can mean to balance on a scale, but here it implies leveling or smoothing a road.
Okay.
The idea is that God is the divine engineer of the believer's life. He observes the path, he evaluates the terrain, and he makes the journey passable.
It doesn't mean the road is easy, though.
No, definitely not. And the very next verse proves that. Verses 8 and 9 are incredibly raw. "With my soul have I desired thee in the night."
In the night. We aren't just talking about sleep. You're staying up late here, are we?
I don't think so. I mean, sure, the silence of 3 a.m. is a great truth teller. It's when our distractions fade. But metaphorically, night represents adversity.
The dark night of the soul.
Yes. It represents those times when the sun is gone, the clarity is gone, and you are left completely in the dark, waiting for God's judgments.
And the response of the believer in that darkness isn't just to ask for a flashlight. It says, "With my soul have I desired thee."
That phrase defines true spirituality. Religion often just wants God's gifts. We want relief, we want answers, we want blessings.
We want the pain to stop.
Right. But true intimacy wants God himself. The text says, "The desire of our soul is to thy name, even in the dark."
Then we hit a piece of theology in verse 9 that I think is really difficult for modern ears. "For when thy judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the world will learn righteousness."
This is what commentators call the pedagogical view of judgment.
Pedagogical, meaning educational.
Exactly. Teaching. It suggests that pain and judgment actually have a function in the world. They aren't just punitive, they are instructive.
It makes me think of C.S. Lewis. He famously said, "Pain is God's megaphone to rouse a deaf world."
That's a great connection. Isaiah is saying that when the lofty city shakes, people suddenly realize their money and their power cannot save them. The grand illusion is stripped away.
And I want to push back on this a little bit because I think a lot of you listening might be thinking the same thing. Does that actually work?
What do you mean?
I feel like when things get really tough, people don't always learn righteousness. Sometimes they just get bitter. Or they double down on their bad behavior.
That is a profound observation, and you are in very good company because Isaiah anticipates that exact objection right in the next verse. Yes. Verse 10, it's almost structured like a debate. Verse 9 says, "Judgment teaches righteousness." But verse 10 presents the counter case. "Let favor be showed to the wicked, yet will he not learn righteousness."
So this is addressing the age-old question, why doesn't God just be nice to everyone? If he just blessed the wicked, wouldn't they change out of gratitude?
Right. We have this modern assumption that bad behavior is solely the result of a bad environment.
Like if he just had more money, or a better job, or lived in a better neighborhood, he'd be a good person.
And Isaiah says, absolutely not. If you show grace, if you show favor to a wicked heart, someone fully committed to the lofty city mentality, they don't interpret it as grace.
What do they interpret it as?
They interpret it as permission.
Oh, they think they got away with it.
Exactly. They think, I sinned, I did my own thing, and the sky didn't fall, I must be fine. The text actually says that even in the land of uprightness, even if you put them in a perfect righteous environment, they will deal unjustly.
So environment does not fix the human heart.
No. You can put a wicked man in paradise, and he will just ruin paradise.
That is a really sobering thought.
Yeah.
And verse 11 kind of doubles down on this blindness. "Lord, when thy hand is lifted up, they will not see."
A lifted hand in this context signifies active power. God is doing something massive in history. His hand is raised.
But the wicked just explain it away.
Yes. They attribute it to geopolitics or chance or market forces.
Climate anomalies.
Whatever the current paradigm is, they absolutely refuse to see divine agency. It is a willful, stubborn, spiritual blindness.
But the verse ends quite ominously. "They shall see and be ashamed."
Because reality always wins in the end. You can close your eyes to the light, but you cannot close your eyes to the fire. The verse ends by saying, "The fire of thine enemies shall devour them."
Eventually, the undeniable nature of God's holiness just crashes in.
Yes.
Which brings us to section 3 of the outline, verses 12 through 18. And reading this section feels very different in tone. It's not just sweeping theology anymore. It feels like a very personal confession.
It is. It's a deep confession of dependence. Look at verse 12. Lord, thou wilt ordain peace for us, for thou also hast wrought all our works in us.
Wrought all our works in us. That sounds like we don't get credit for anything we do.
We don't. Theologians call this concept divine monergism.
Monergism, meaning one energy, one worker.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's the realization that even the good things we manage to achieve, our quote-unquote works, are actually the energy of God flowing through us.
So we didn't build the strong city.
Right.
We didn't manufacture the perfect peace. God did it.
Right. We just inhabit it by his grace.
And then in verse 13, there is this striking acknowledgement of other lords. O Lord our God, other lords beside thee have had dominion over us.
Now, historically, we have to remember Israel had literal political overlords. Pharaoh in Egypt,
Yeah.
the Syrian Empire, the Babylonians, they were often a vassal state.
But spiritually, they were also constantly chasing other gods, right? Baal, Molech, Ashtoreth.
Yes, the idolatry was rampant.
So how do we apply this concept of other lords today? Because I assume you listening to this aren't bowing down to bronze statues of Molech in your living room.
No, but the core principle of idolatry hasn't changed at all. Another lord is anything that demands your total allegiance and dictates how you live your life.
So the lord of career.
The lord of public opinion. The lord of the algorithm.
Oh, that's a big one.
The lord of substance abuse. The lord of financial security. Anything that you look to for ultimate significance or safety other than God is a lord.
And Israel is confessing here, we let these things rule us. We submitted to them.
But verse 14 is the magnificent declaration of liberation from those lords. They are dead, they shall not live. Thou hast visited and destroyed them and made all their memory to perish.
It reads like a total emancipation proclamation.
It is. Those tyrants, they are dust. God has completely wiped them out. And notice the absolute finality of it. They don't come back.
The power that addiction held, broken. The power of fear, dead. That is such a hopeful thought. But then right after this incredible liberation, we slide into what I think is maybe the most painful metaphor in the entire chapter.
You're talking about verses 16 through 18.
Yes, the travailing woman.
It's incredibly visceral imagery. Like as a woman with child that draweth near the time of her delivery is in pain and crieth out in her pangs. So have we been in thy sight, O Lord.
Israel is describing their agonizing effort to save themselves. They are straining, pushing, sweating.
They are trying to give birth to their own salvation.
And the result in verse 18 is just heartbreaking. We had, as it were, brought forth wind.
In the Hebrew, it literally means they gave birth to air, nothingness.
The verse finishes, we have not wrought any deliverance in the earth.
This is the ultimate crisis of humanism. This is the definition of futility. Think about all the immense human effort we pour into fixing the world.
Oh, yeah. We form endless committees. We pass sweeping laws. We go to global summits.
We strive, we sweat, we protest. We are collectively in labor to birth a utopia.
And so often, it feels like we just birth more problems. Or we birth nothing at all.
We birth wind. We cannot save the world. We can't even save ourselves. And honestly, that feeling of birthing wind, I think many of you listening know exactly what that feels like.
It's burnout.
Yes, it's the exhaustion of trying to fix your marriage or fix your kids or fix your career and realizing that your absolute best effort amounts to zero.
That is a desperate, dark place to be.
It is. But biblically speaking, it is the necessary place.
Why necessary?
Because you have to reach the end of your own ability to, quote-unquote, wrought deliverance before you are ready for God's intervention. As long as you secretly think, I can fix this if I just push a little harder.
You aren't ready for resurrection.
Exactly. You have to admit that, humanly speaking, the situation is dead.
And that perfectly sets up the massive pivot in section 4. Verse 19, the tone changes instantly. It's like the sun exploding through heavy clouds.
It really is a shock to the system. Thy dead men shall live, together with my dead body shall they arise.
We really have to pause on the sheer magnitude of this verse, because usually when we read the Old Testament, the afterlife is a bit, well, it's a bit shadowy.
Yes, Sheol, the realm of the dead, it's not very distinct or developed in early texts.
Right. But here, centuries before Christ, it is explicit. It is undeniable bodily resurrection. Thy dead men shall live.
And notice the possessive nature of that phrase, thy dead men.
Meaning God's dead men.
That is key. These aren't just random corpses. These are God's people. Death does not break the covenant relationship. If you belong to God in life, you belong to him in death.
He claims the corpse.
He does, and the command that follows is beautiful. Awake and sing, ye that dwell in dust.
The graveyard is usually a place of absolute silence, mourning.
But here, Isaiah turns the cemetery into a choir. He redefines death from a final, tragic ending to a temporary sleep. You awake from it.
Now, I need you to explain this imagery in the second half of the verse, because I think a lot of us miss it. For thy dew is as the dew of herbs, and the earth shall cast out the dead. What is this dew?
This is beautiful agricultural poetry. You have to understand the climate of ancient Israel.
Okay.
It's an arid land. In the dry season, there is no rain. Zero. The land turns completely brown, the vegetation withers, and it looks totally dead.
Just dust.
But there is a heavy, thick dew that falls at night.
So the dew essentially keeps the plants on life support.
Exactly. It is the secret source of life in a dead season. It comes silently from heaven during the dark night, and in the morning, the brown herb is suddenly green and revived.
Wow. And Isaiah is using this as a metaphor for the power of God.
Specifically, I would argue the Holy Spirit.
So the grave is the dry dust.
Mm-hmm.
It's the ultimate drought.
Yes. But God's dew falls on that dust. And just as the morning dew revives the withered herb, the silent, invisible power of God quickens the dead body.
And then the earth casting out the dead.
The Hebrew word there implies a birth. The earth can no longer contain the dead. It has to give them up. This is the direct divine answer to the birthing wind in the previous verses.
I see the contrast now. Humans strain and push and agonizingly birth wind. Nothingness. God sends his silent dew and effortlessly births the dead into eternal life.
That is the gospel hidden right here in Isaiah. Human effort produces nothing. God's power produces resurrection.
That is incredible. And it connects so directly to the New Testament. Like Paul in 1 Corinthians 15, death is swallowed up in victory.
It's the exact same hope bridging the Testaments.
So we have this incredible high note of resurrection. But the chapter doesn't end there. We move into section 5, verses 20 and 21, and the tone shifts again, becomes incredibly urgent.
Because while the resurrection is the ultimate long-term hope, the indignation is the immediate reality. God is about to deal with the lofty city.
Verse 20, Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself, as it were, for a little moment, until the indignation be overpast.
This is pastoral counsel for the apocalypse. When the judgment comes, what do the righteous do? Do they grab swords? Do they fight? Do they protest?
They hide.
They hide. Shut thy doors. And this is so rich with biblical typology. Think of Noah.
Entering the ark. God shut the door behind him.
Exactly. Think of the Passover in Egypt.
Right. The Israelites went into their homes, applied the blood of the lamb to the doorposts, and shut the door.
They didn't go out into the street to watch the angel of death work. They didn't engage. They hid behind the blood.
So in a spiritual sense, entering your chambers is about finding safety in God.
It's about intimacy. The chamber is the private inner room. When the world is shaking, when the wrath is falling, you don't engage with the chaos. You retreat into the secret place of the Most High.
You let the walls of salvation do their job.
Yes.
And I find a lot of comfort in the time frame given here. Hide thyself for a little moment.
Now, it doesn't feel like a little moment when you are in it.
No, suffering can feel eternal.
But from the perspective of the Rock of Ages, from the perspective of eternity, the judgment is just a blip. It passes. The strong city is eternal. The indignation is strictly temporary.
And finally, verse 21 tells us precisely why this indignation is happening. For behold, the Lord cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity.
This is a terrifying anthropomorphic image. We usually picture God seated firmly on his throne, ruling the universe in perfect calm. Here, he stands up.
He steps out of his place.
His transcendent dwelling. He steps into time to intervene directly in human history.
He's coming to settle accounts.
And look at the specific evidence he brings up. The earth also shall disclose her blood and shall no more cover her slain.
That sounds like a crime scene investigation.
It is entirely forensic. Go all the way back to Genesis. Cain kills his brother Abel. God comes to him and says, "The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground."
So the earth literally records the violence.
That's the powerful imagery here. History is soaked full of innocent blood, wars, genocides, secret murders, systemic injustice, where the powerful crush the weak.
And usually the perpetrators think, well, the earth swallowed it, it's buried, it's gone, I got away with it.
But Isaiah says the earth is a witness.
Yes.
In the final judgment, the earth will vomit up the blood. It will turn state's witness against the wicked. Here is the evidence. God is the ultimate investigative journalist. Nothing remains covered.
That is a deeply sobering thought. But it's also a deeply hopeful one if you care at all about justice. Because a God who lets innocent blood go unanswered, a God who just ignores oppression, is not a good God.
Exactly. The judgment is the goodness of God acting against evil. It is his absolute refusal to let injustice have the final word in his creation.
Man. So we have gone on a massive journey here today. We've seen the strong city with walls of salvation. We've seen the lofty city of human pride turned to dust.
We've seen the dew of resurrection.
And the disclosed blood of divine judgment.
It is a breathtakingly comprehensive worldview packed into just 21 verses.
I really want to synthesize this for everyone listening, because we've talked a lot of deep theology. But what does this look like on a Tuesday morning?
I think it comes down to recognizing the unseen spiritual interactions happening all around us.
What do you mean by that?
We often think we are just living in a physical economy or a political system. We only see what's in front of us. Isaiah is pulling back the curtain and saying, no, there are other lords vying for your dominion. There is a profound spiritual battle happening behind the scenes.
And because of that, there is a choice of citizenship.
Right. You are either actively building in the lofty city, relying on your own height, your own walls, your own pride and bank account, or you are leaning your weight in the strong city.
And the warning to the rebellious in this chapter is stark.
It is unavoidable. If you are banking on the lofty city, you need to know. It falls. It always falls. And if you are banking on favor, thinking that just because things are good now, God doesn't care about your sin, you are spiritually blind.
The lifted hand is coming.
It is.
But the encouragement for the believer is just as powerful as the warning.
I'd say more powerful. The encouragement is, stop trying to birth the wind. Stop exhausting yourself, trying to save yourself or control outcomes you can't control.
Enter your chambers.
Hide in the finished work of God. Let him be the rock.
And I think the perfect peace that shalom we talked about is the ultimate takeaway here. It's not a feeling you have to conjure up with meditation.
No, it's a structural result of where you put your weight.
That's the takeaway. You have to check your leaning. If you are listening to this and you feel anxious, ask yourself, what am I leaning on that is currently shaking?
And then consciously, deliberately, transfer that weight to the Rock of Ages.
Trust ye in the Lord forever. That's the command.
And for in the Lord, Jehovah is everlasting strength. That's the promise.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We've seen that human effort alone only brings forth wind, and that God alone has the dew that can raise the dead. So where are you placing your trust today? Is it in the sweat of your own labor, or in the silent, invisible power of his dew?
That's the question we all have to answer.
It really is. Thank you so much for guiding us through this deep dive. It's amazing how a text from thousands of years ago can read like it was written for tomorrow's headlines.
The word of the Lord endures forever.
Absolutely. Thanks for being with us on this journey, everyone. We will catch you in the next deep dive.